So I'm going to test throwing on this brand new wheel from BTH. I told you that I will do my test. So you get to know how we handle a large amount of clay. Of course, from the manual it says we can handle up to 88 pounds of clay. I want to know if when you throw a little bit heavier clay, large amount of clay, how to handle. Right, so that is the clay that without applying any pressure on it, all the way to full speed, and then slow down, reduce the speed, see how to handle the very slow speed. Like I said, from my most of my demonstration, I usually like to have very steady and slow speed when I'm shaping it. So that is very important for me. And this one is good. When it's slow speed, it's still spinning constantly and without hiccup. Alright, now let's test drive on applying the force on it for a large amount of clay. And as you see, when I'm throwing a large amount of clay, I don't usually push the clay very hard. So my weight of a center is quite different. So I don't apply a lot of force, a lot of pressure on the clay. I'm just centering the skin of the clay. And also I don't spin the wheel super fast. As you can see that this is about like 50% of the full power. Okay, so the wheel feeling so far so good. Now I'm ready to dig a hole. I usually drill the hole all the way down to the very bottom before I make it wider. Before I widen it. And I just eyeball it, but if you are not sure how thick the bottom is, you can use the needle to check it. Now it's good, and then I'm going to just use my fingertip to squeeze the clay level to widen the base. So I'm using my fingertip to compress the floor a couple times And some people find it is very hard to use the fingertip. The key is using the pad and just start from the center point and then slowly moving the fingertip toward the side of the corner. Okay, so that is the floor opening. If you have hard time to open up the floor flat, I have a tool that is very good for doing so. This is my number 6, a wooden stick. All you need to do is using this part here and hold it and start from the center, and then you could push the clay level to the corner. Let me do one more time. Start from the center, and my wheel is spinning counterclockwise, so you are going to move it to the right hand side corner. So the floor is compressing nicely using this tool. Number 6, floor compressing, and also for stretching. The curved side, you can use that to stretch. But this part here, you could use that to compress the floor. Right, after taking care of the floor, I could use this part here. Just grab the clay, and this hand is helping it. Basically, is my left hand is pinching the wall of clay and then try to move it up, lift it up. And keep the rim compressed. So this is my initial lifting. I use a whole lot of slip to lubricate it instead of using a lot of water. So you see that when I'm throwing, I don't usually use a sponge. And then after that, I'm gonna bring the thicker clay and collar to squeeze it up from the very bottom and squeeze it up. Again, remove the slip, and then especially brush it on the inside of the wall. You have an extra slip, just brush on the outside. If you want to throw something taller, smaller base or narrow cylinder is easier, in my opinion, for myself. So I'm going to keep on squeezing the corner of clay in. Just use my right fingertips and squeeze it. So now you can see that my base is a lot smaller than it used to be. And then from here, this hand slightly push and then squeeze the clay up. And the slip is your friend, so don't throw it away. Just put it back on the inside of the surface. And this extra clay here in the corner, you can just squeeze it in further, so you don't waste the clay in the corner. And now the clay is still fairly thick, so I'm going to just using this method to squeeze it, lifting from the inside of the wall. Use my fingertips, and outside hand is just bracing it. Like I say, that keep the cylinder narrower. It's easier to bring the clay wall taller. Alright, so far I haven't used my regular method of lifting the clay. I'm just squeezing and pushing up to this point. And now I'm going to use my usual method of lifting is my hand inside, push it out a little bit belly, and then my thumb is fitting underneath of a belly, and then pull it up. So I'm bending my right hand, bending my wrist here, and with my thumb is pointing down and pull this up. This is very unique way. The method I learned it in Taiwan. Right, so upside down, and the inside hand is pushing out, so you can see there's a belly there, and my outside hand is holding the belly and try to squeeze it up, pull it up. I'm coating the slip again on the inside of the wall. And I didn't pull it all the way, so I will change my method here. Just go all the way up and pinch the rim and compress it. And this part is slightly wider when I'm pushing from inside, a little bit too far out. I could come back and color it back in. Before I do that, make sure I have enough lubrication. Since I'm not pouring the clay all the way, so this part here is slightly thicker. And when the rim is too thick and you try to pull it up, it's a lot of torque and you might have a twist here. So I will try to thin it down from this point. Just go in there and pinch the clay and pull it up all the way to the rim. And compress down to keep the rim level. So just use my finger to brush the water mixed with the slip, so it will be slippery. And now you can see that my spinning speed is not very fast. Usually I don't spin my wheel very fast. Okay, it's getting tall, so I will try to stand up and throw. Make sure the surface I touch is slippery, so I take my time to lubricate it to make it slippery. So I stretch this part here. When I'm pulling it up, I also start to shape it. But I keep this part, the rim part, untouched, because if you're going to make the rims smaller, you don't need to stretch it out. Just keep the rim smaller, so it will be easier. And also it holds the shape better without getting too much of a wobble. And now all I need to do is start to shape this part out. Keeping the rim smaller but slightly thicker, it should hold the shape better. So what I did was getting my finger inside to support the shoulder part while I'm squeezing it. I'm using the finger outside to squeeze it. The shoulder is being supported. And now you can see that my shoulders start to get wobbly. So if you see, if you want to see my finger look like, let me pull it out. This part here usually is kind of weakest part. If you don't support it, it'll get worse and worse. So my finger inside is actually spread it out to hold it like this. You can see that my finger spread it out, okay, to hold this part here, the shoulder. If the rim is wobbling too much or not level, you could just chop it off. How far I can stretch it out is depending on the amount of clay and how thick the wall is, and also how much water content, how dry your clay is. My clay is slightly on the soft side, so I won't be able to stretch it too much. If you want to stretch a lot, stretch more, wider and more volume, the other trick is that you can do it, just use the heat gun to heat it up. So this part here is stronger and you can stretch it farther out. So I'm not forgetting, I'm testing this wheel actually. And you can see that the slow speed is fairly good, very steady. And also when it's very slow speed, you are barely to hear the noise from the wheel. So it's a very good wheel for my initial test. Alright, so the inside not much left since when I'm toasting it all the slip, and when I'm shaping I keep on grabbing the slip, so not much of a slip left on the inside. And then just use my number 17 for the wheel spinning counterclockwise 17. If you spinning clockwise, you can use my number 18 for, we call wet trimmer, okay, or the skirt trimmer that you can cut off the clay from the base. Usually I don't like to leave too much clay on the base, so this is a good tool to remove it. Just make sure when you are using this tool, you have to constantly remove the clay from the tool, otherwise it might stick back onto the surface. So make sure you remove it after you trim it off. So if you are planning to trim the clay, you don't need to make it very clean. But if you are planning not to trim the foot, you can put a very good design on it, because this tool I have intentionally leave a little curve here, so you can leave a curve if you are planning not to trim the foot, so that it looks like you did it intentionally to make a foot. Alright, so that if you are not going to trim it, that foot looks nice. And just use a sponge to clean up the bed. Alright, so as you can see from this camera here, my splash pan stays very clean. Use a slip, less water. Again, this is the test of the wheel, and it's very good wheel for the price point. And I will do a whole bunch of throw it down this wheel from now on. For 1 year, I will give you a report that how this wheel is hold up to the pressure of everyday use, and you can check the difference between now and then. Alright, so thanks for watching, and see you next time.